Welcome to another Tech Central video. My name is Chris Harris, and today what we're going to talk about are trigger shoes. In fact, more specifically is just how to change the trigger shoe on your TacSport or TacSport Pro. To meet with shooter demand, just recently we just launched a range of trigger shoes to provide some options for you guys and girls out there. The standard shoe that comes with the TacSport and the TacSport Pro is just a 4.5 millimeter wide shoe. I really like it actually because you really get a good feeling for the sense of pressure on the finger, but I also understand there's a nicer feel to some of the wider shoes. So what we did was we released 4 new trigger shoes. 3 of them are 7 millimeter wide, and then we got an extra wide 8 millimeter one. So the first one would be the best replica of what we put into the competition trigger, the famous competition trigger from Bix'n, which is used in bench press shooting and gets used in fact in a lot of tactical shooting because people really like the low pull weight, the clean break, and the trigger shoe. However, obviously it's not designed for tactical shooting or hunting, and that is why we've got the TacSport Pro. So the first one here is 7 millimeter wide, smooth curved surface, great feel to it, very popular, and so that is now available in the TacSport and the TacSport Pro. We've got that exact same shoe again now with 3 serrations in the face of it, which just provide a little bit more of a tactical feel, tactile feel, I should say, to the face, and people, some people prefer that. Moving on, we have another shoe, 7 millimeter wide, but this time around what we've done is we provided a 90-degree drop from the trigger, and I've never used one of these, but I do know they're very popular. So people just love the feel, the contact they get with that 90-degree face. They don't have to worry about where they are on the trigger shoe in a vertical axis. And then the last one, which we call our gator, got to be honest, the first time I saw this, I wasn't it wasn't sort of my choice, I think. It's a little bit wider, it's 8 millimeters, so it really is a wide shoe, and it's got a very aggressive knurl pattern that has been carefully machined to the inside of the curve. Since I've actually felt it on a gun, I really like it. So if you're going to shoot a gun just with a slightly extra higher pull weight, this is just a great feel. These knurlings you get, on the inside of that trigger shoe. So with that said, now whichever one you buy, will go into the TacSport and the TacSport Pro. And before we get going on that, I will say as well, we've got single stage and 2-stage TacSport and TacSport Pros. So obviously with the 2-stage, we've got a couple more adjustments. So what we did is we made sure that our shoes can slot into a standard TacSport and the TacSport Pro. So you will find that you've got a couple of extra holes in your trigger shoe. It does not matter; they don't get used if you're putting them into the single stage. And so I would look at your manual carefully, because if you're out in the field later and you want to make some adjustments to your single stage TacSport, then you are going to have to use certain adjustments which are in certain holes, and then if you go to the 2-stage, you're going to find that those holes have got different adjustments in it. So for example, here I've got a single stage, and this is a 2-stage. The holes you can see in the standard shoe are still the same. You've got 3 holes there, but in the single stage, your sear adjustment is in front. In the 2-stage, your sear adjustment is 1 hole behind. The second hole in this shoe is in fact, there's nothing behind it. So you could quite easily plug it if you wanted to avoid some confusion if you have a single stage. And the rear hole as well is not used. Okay, so just a word of caution on that. So let's get down to how we go about replacing this. Pretty simple. If you haven't already, not many people shoot these triggers in Remingtons. A lot of them are going into clones nowadays. So people just have their bolt stop lever removed. And to do that, it's pretty simple. There's a little E or C clip on the left-hand side of the trigger. You just slide that off and remove the bolt stop. And the next thing you've got to do then is remove these three screws holding the plate down. They are Torx 10. The tools you really need is really just a Torx 10 driver, and I'd say a small little pocket knife. The TacSport and TacSport Pro do not have jack screws on the other side of the housing. You can actually remove this cover plate without jack screws, and quite easily with a knife. So what you do here, you just slot a knife in just gently into the space where the top sear is. Just lever it off a bit, put your knife in at the bottom, and remove the cover plate. And on the inside, even with your Pro, you're going to find that the layout is pretty much identical. They are different components. So on that issue, you don't want to be swapping out Pro components with standard components. If you need something, you're missing something, you call us and we'll get the right spare parts to you. So what you'll see here once you've opened it, in front, your trigger shoe itself is not attached to any sear, right? So you don't have to worry about upsetting any sear adjustments at all. But on the front side, you do have two springs that the shoe is attached to. So what we need to do, just to wiggle the trigger shoe off. So the spindle is the thing, as I said, that increases or decreases your trigger force, and attach the spindle on the top of the springs. There's a little hook here. Let me just show it to you quickly. Tiny little hook, and both your springs need to go through that hook when you reassemble your trigger shoe. And at this stage, I'll tell you, you cannot reverse these springs. So remember, just have a look at them here, the arrangement then. It's there, it's pretty easy to see. And at the bottom of the trigger shoe, you'll notice that the two springs go through these two tiny little holes. And I want you to just remember that the small spring goes through the top hole and the big thicker wire spring goes through the bottom hole, okay? Make sure you keep that all together. So what you do now, just gently twist your old trigger shoe out of those little hooks, and they are going to hold on a little bit. There you go. And put that aside, and let's select, what do we have here? We've got the 7mm wide serrated curved shoe. So when we put this back, you may need a little tweezer just to orientate these springs a bit. And it, as I said earlier, it is fiddly. Put your bottom one in, and then put the smaller spring, the top spring, into that top hole. So now you got that. That's the difficult part. Okay. Hook both springs into the hook on the spindle, and here you go. You're good to go. Put the spindle in this threaded portion on the top here. Feed that into the tiny little hole in the trigger housing. Here we go. Now what you do, you line up your trigger shoe and just wiggle it on, and we're good to go. That's your new trigger shoe in place. All right. Cover plate back on. Probably just, these things are so beautifully machined. They are tight fitting, but if you just press nice and evenly across the surface, you're gonna get this guy all squared up nicely. Take your T10. What I like to do is just get them started, run them in a little bit, don't tighten them down, and secure all three nicely. And there you've got your trigger shoe back in, your new trigger shoe, and you're ready now to tune this thing and to set it to your desire, however you had the previous one set up. Now do you remember there, obviously it comes with the set screen side here. You are going to have to reset that in order to work perfectly in your gun. But it's pretty simple. As I mentioned, a little on the niggly side because you're dealing with small parts and those little springs, and so don't do it when you're in a rush, because I guarantee the springs are going to go flying somewhere and under the workshop table, and you'll lose them. But it's that simple. And if you've got any questions, please, our team is always available to take your call. We love chatting to you, and thank you again for watching another Tech Central video.